Well, I want to welcome everyone to this program featuring author and intuitive Frank DeMarco. I'll tell you a little bit about how I met Frank. It was last March, I think, at the Monroe Institute's leadership conference. And there was a silent auction, and Frank was kind enough to purchase my book, Your Psychic Soul, and to give me his book, Babe in the Woods, in return, which I subsequently read with tremendous interest and great enjoyment. It's one of his 3 novels. But the thing that really struck me about Frank during that particular time frame, which lasted for 3 or 4 days, was that I was running around doing mind mirror sessions for people and giving PowerPoint presentations and quite getting pretty exhausted, staying up late, getting up early. And I guess about the 4th day, I was rushing through the kitchen, just about to rush through the kitchen to the downstairs to do a study for Felice Dubois and Fred Reibel, who is a board member. Felice, you know, is a mind mirror practitioner. And really, I was kind of at the end of my rope. I'd been measuring people all day long. And Frank just, he says, "Judith," and I said, "Yes." And he says, "I know that you're very busy, but if you can spare 2 minutes, I can make all the difference for you." And I started to say, "No, I don't even have 2 minutes." But he had such an earnest and sincere and promising look in his eyes that I said, "Okay." He says, "All right, so just take a deep breath and relax." And he placed his hands on my shoulders. And to my utter astonishment, a sense of great peace and calm, and more important than anything, coherence, streamed into my body and brain. And by the end of those 2 minutes, I was just a completely different person, and was able to do the, kind of complicated 2 mind mirrors, multiple hookups with Fred and Felice for about an hour, hour and a half, and went to bed and had wonderful dreams that night. And so it was with great interest that I, as you can imagine, that I read Frank's first book, or one of his books, Babe in the Woods. And I was just really amazed. For one thing, he's an incredibly gifted writer. As you may or may not know by now, he is the writer of many books, and I'll just share my screen with you and show you. So I read Babe in the Woods right here, and it was a novel, about someone who attends a program at the not very well obscured C.T. Merriman Institute, which is basically a version of the Monroe Institute. And it was such a great mix of terrific writing and great storytelling, superb plot, and most importantly for all of us, consciousness development. Someone waking up to things they didn't understand before and experiencing changes, palpable, tangible changes in their levels of awareness. And indeed, you can say that that is the story with all of Frank's books. Messenger, another novel, excellent, excellent novel. It's a follow-up to the story of Shangri-La. And I just finished Dark Fire, really superb. So these are the 3 novels. And the rest of them are also beautifully written and contain the most, I don't even know how to say this. I don't want to say lofty levels of wisdom. He is communicating with the guys upstairs, and this is another thing that we have in common, is that he's connecting with the higher level of consciousness to pull down the wisdom that infuses all of his books. But every single one of them, Muddy Tracks is an autobiography, a spiritual autobiography, fascinating. I'm reading it right now. And all the rest, and Frank, you can correct me if I'm wrong, the only other ones that I've read so far is Sphere and the Hologram. I honestly couldn't put it down in France. I should have been sightseeing in France, and I was sitting out in front of Liz's house reading this book, and really it's quite amazing. The information that I get from my meditative writings, I really focus on my life situation and understanding the factors and forces around me. But Frank is going so high, and he's pulling down philosophical wisdom and just really complex and wonderfully, complex is not the word, you can say something about it, Frank, just fascinating and wonderful and profound information. And so then I next met Frank after I came back from France, and here he is looking a bit bemused, as if he's not quite sure what's going to happen here at the Monroe Institute's June program this year. It was another discovery program, and this is Dirk Dunning, his friend. These guys are just bosom buddies and pal around together, and if you're not careful, you'll get a boost of healing energy from both of them lined up together at the Monroe Institute. Just really fun to be around both of them. And Frank's brainwaves, if I may say, well, I know that I may say because I've gone and put his study up on the Mind Mirror research page of the website with his permission. At TMI during the June training, he was producing incredibly beautiful awakened mind patterns with his eyes open. And then he picked up pen and paper and was producing some lovely gamma synchrony patterns. I see that some of you here are gamma synchrony producers, so you know what a state of consciousness that is. That means that you're tuned into who Frank calls the guides upstairs. We might call it spiritual ecstasy, mystical union, whatever it is. It's a level of high frequency gamma that informs and stabilizes the awakened mind and the evolved mind patterns. And then he produced an enormous number of evolved mind patterns. And then I went to his house after the training at TMI, and we did about an hour-long session, and that's the one that's up on the website. And it's really fascinating because I used every single one of the data analysis windows that we now have, including the new coherence reports. And as you'll see, this is the brainwave pattern of someone who's absolutely tuned in, and more so channeling that information right into his books and his novels. And so it is my great pleasure to present to you the author of this lovely book, Imagine Yourself Well, and the subtitle is A Practical Guide to Using Visualization to Improve Your Health and Your Life. And I read it, and I promise you, it's a heck of a fine investment, as are any of his books. So Frank, first of all, we want to thank you and welcome you for being here, and just open this program up and let you take off on the crest of a wave and let this thing flow out just as it may and might.